All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is the meeting of the Long Grove Economic Development Commission, and due to the governor's statewide disaster declaration relating to COVID-19 pandemic and current public health guidelines for social distancing, which are still in place, I have determined that it is not prudent for the members of the Economic Development Commission or staff to convene in person for this morning's meeting. Therefore, the members of the EDC are attending this meeting by video conference. Those same conditions require barring access to the public for in-person attendance. In light of these limitations, the public is invited to attend and listen to the meeting through Zoom platform or by phone, as indicated in the meeting agenda. To comply with current open meetings requirements for virtual meetings, this meeting is being recorded. All right. So, what we got here? I think we might be a little shy in terms of participants, just the three of us. I suspect that the last square is Bill Jacobs, who has been asked to, Bill, if you're there, just tap on your microphone and say whatever, but this is it so far. I know Mina was not going to be able to attend, and haven't heard anything from Mike one way or another.
Mike, I'm here,
Oh,
Roger.
Mike. Oh, all right.
I'm calling in, sorry.
No, that's great. I thought you were Bill Jacobs. He had some kind of a tooth surgery yesterday and said, don't expect me to talk tomorrow morning, which makes some sense. So that's a quorum. Pam, why don't you do the roll call thing on the record here?
Okay, Erwin Steinberg,
Here.
Mike Elliott,
Here,
Jay Levin. And you said Mina's not going to be here. Okay.
Right. All right. It's kind of a catch-up meeting, at least that's the way that I look at it, because we had what I really enjoyed, that discussion about what the possibilities are in Long Grove last week, and we're probably going to end up circling back to that. But just in terms of taking care of these other things that are on the agenda, thought we'd go through these one at a time. The high school project, anybody know anything more than what we heard the last time?
I unfortunately was driving back when Anne had the follow-up, like the closure meeting. Sorry, this cat is so starved for attention. So I haven't been able to circle back with her to find out what's happening with that. It's just been nuts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that we're hoping, we are not hoping, we are planning on collaborating again with them in the fall, potentially doing like the Welcome to Long Grove kits as a different project. I think that, I think we all agree we found some useful, maybe not surprising things from what the businesses had to say. And I think some of those things we would like to tie in with the conversation, joint meeting with the board and the EDC. So I think we should not lose sight of that project and, keep it in the back of our minds as we move forward. So, but, excuse me.
My hope my hope is that we get some kind of document from the people at Stevenson, some kind of a report where they just give a summary of what happened, either from the students themselves or from the teachers. If I follow up with Anne about that, would that be a?
I thought, I think Anne put something together. Maybe she just distributed to the board.
If the board's seen it, that's my concern. I just,
Yeah, let me double check, but I'm pretty sure that Anne kind of compiled a summary of that. So
Yeah, I do remember something being circulated to this group, but it should be sent on to the board just so they have a understanding of what we've been doing.
yeah, I think it was, but I'll double check on that.
Yeah, I guess the other thing we talked about was an article in the Bridge. I don't know if that happened.
No, it didn't, and it should. And a link on our website to those projects.
You know, this is not on the agenda, but I looked at the EDC website the other day for the first time in probably a couple of months, and I was impressed. It has made some significant progress for whatever reason, and is a lot richer than it was when we started talking about this.
I agree, Roger. When we were going through that exercise of looking at other EDC websites, I kept going back to compare it with ours. I'm like, you know, we have a lot of this. So I think we're on the right track.
I hope so, and we keep going down that track. It looks like Ann Kitzmeyer is Trustee Kitzmeyer has just joined us. And can you hear us yet?
Ann, are you there?
Well, we'll get to it. Somebody will remember to talk to her about the Stevenson project business.
Oh, Ann, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can now.
Hi.
Hi.
We were just talking about the Stevenson project. I missed that last kind of closing meeting with them, and I didn't know if you had any more to add about the project.
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember what was been shared already, but basically we talked about the students really, I think it was a win-win on both sides. I don't know that there were, earth-shattering marketing ideas coming back to the businesses, but the ones that did come back, they were very pleased about. And I think they're pleased with the interaction and the fact that doing that kind of research and interaction just raises the visibility on both sides anyway, right? It exposes some of the Stevenson students to businesses. They're like, oh, this is cool. I mean, and maybe they're not going to the brewery right away, but I think that level of like even just grassroots awareness was beneficial. Definitely, they're looking forward to continuing the partnership next fall. One of the marketing teachers is leaving, Taylor, the one who's been there the longest. She's getting married and is pursuing a master's in marketing at the University of Denver. So we'll have one of the two teachers will be in place next year, so we'll be able to continue that. I'd love to be able to broadcast that more to businesses, again, as a way of like, I think some of them did get some ideas that they didn't know about. I think certainly everybody got some exposure to the Stevenson families and valued that on the business side. And on the student side, they absolutely valued understanding, having these real world conversations and saying, okay, this isn't some textbook thing. These are real life people, and you can have a Q&A back and forth. So I also think, if you remember, Jen, we talked about, we didn't want this to be an email form to fill out. We wanted it to be a dialogue. And I think that was a good choice.
Yeah, I think so too. So we should, I'm sorry. We should try to get this in the bridge, right?
I would love to. I would love to. And you could even, with the permission of the businesses, what did we have, 13 of them? You could pepper little things in social media also.
Right. 100%. Yeah, that's a great, I'm still forget we have social media.
Yeah, and Jenny, you pointed out that possibly the next project with them would be a little bit different, maybe geared towards like a new resident packet or something like that.
Well, that's what we had discussed. We were kind of in the first brainstorming session. That was one of the projects that we were talking about pursuing. So, and I think there's an appetite for that with the board. So I think that's a good project moving forward.
Totally. And because we talked about identifying two different audiences, one of the businesses, understanding from current businesses, why are they in Long Grove? And then the other one was targeting potential customers of our businesses, and that welcome packet would be that idea. By the way, I don't remember, Jen, if this got shared, but almost almost to a business, all of them would really love to find ways to have more younger audiences, younger clients in, like how do we attract more people who are younger to downtown? Things like, Court. They're doing quite well, but they say our target audience is more like, downtown Chicago. We'd like to see a younger target audience. So anything the Economic Development Committee can think of and brainstorm that would start attracting younger audiences, not necessarily to live in Long Grove, but to be visiting the businesses.
Maybe just let me add my 2 cents. Maybe we should ask them to help us put together a social media program, because that's what they're really good at, rather than the welcome kits for everyone. I think it'd have a greater impact. And Mike has mentioned it a number of times, and I think that's really the way to go. Plus what you just said, getting a younger crowd in. I mean, they're very young, but still, I just think that would be beneficial. They've got more expertise than me, a lot more.
I think that'd be a great topic for sure.
Yeah, and I think and I know one of the businesses off the top of my head kind of expressed, please help, I need help with this social media. So.
This makes me think about the observation last fall when the merchants were doing a lot of live music in the evenings, especially on the weekend. And I just happened to pass through, and probably this is really dating me, but it made me think of Rush Street, which was where, when I was very young, people would go to have a drink and walk from club to club. And it was that kind of thing outside in Long Grove. And it's still kind of that now, even in the summer, with several places having live music, not for a big concert thing, but just for our people come in, see, and then wander down to the next place. And if you've got 2 or 3 places having different kinds of music, if people in Palatine are looking for a place to go on Friday night instead of during Nelly's or whatever it is, it wouldn't be terrible to have them spend their money in Long Grove.
That's a great idea, Raj. I know other towns have done things to tie an easy into that, where they do like a first Friday, kind of put a little bit of structure or support around it. Or maybe, I think one of them might have been the brewery. One of their requests was, can we get more people downtown, not Friday, Saturday? Like, not that he's opposed to that, but he's doing fine Friday, Saturday, but what about the rest of the week? Or doing fine on weekends? Maybe a Thursday
night music, something like that.
Yeah.
And we don't have the human resources that a college town does, but I know college towns will fill up their coffee houses or whatever with people who are just happy to play in order to have an audience.
Right.
You can find the younger people and give them a platform, and it might be something worth thinking about, talking to the HLGDBA about.
Yeah, or I mean, there's the music and arts. I can't remember what the noun was. Yeah. Whatever the noun was, and they would bring in more people who are trying to earn their living do that. But I wonder if the structure or the processes they have in place would support what you just said, Roger, kind of a community open mic.
I was thinking, how do you get young parents in there? You have their kids perform. What about a high school band night?
Oh, yeah.
You have obviously it would be, you would have to be, you're at a brewery, but, I remember there was a brew pub where I grew up that like Tuesday nights were non-alcoholic. Like it was open to kids and they could go in and they had high school bands come. Mm-hmm. So they could go and hang out at a bar, but there were no drinks served. I mean, I think obviously the parents could, but they had to wear like a little, wrist bracelet or something. But it was packed because parents want to see their kids. And, you get that young demographic,
The Village Tavern has the stage. They bring in some Lake Zurich jazz group that they've got, or, I can't imagine that they just have big orchestras at high school. They must have some small breakout group kind of.
Yeah, like jazz band, something like that. I mean, I think Stevenson does.
Yeah. But I
I
don't know.
think there'd be a lot of hunger for being able to do that live also. Even, I don't know if you're familiar with like Mr. Stevenson, you know, it's kind of a weird popularity as well as talent con. I think it was virtual this year for the last 2 years, you know, wouldn't that be great to do live?
Yeah.
Right.
Do they still do the, I can't even remember what it used to be called, but they used to have a Battle of the Bands at Stevenson. And
Yeah, I think they still do.
yeah, and the faculty band with Rick Dufour was always a big hit. But you know what you're saying is absolutely true. The kids were just yeah. At that time, my oldest had a band, and they wanted to play, and so I had a connection, and I had this guy who actually they ran a professional sound company for concerts and whatnot, and they came in with a couple of soundboards and ran a sound check. And of course, with that kind of instrumentation, everybody's group sounded like they couldn't get the kids off the stage for sound check, much less. Oh, let's do some more of this.
Yeah, maybe like
Playing a concert grand piano.
Yeah, like
yeah.
like I was saying, like Stevenson has a jazz band. That would be fun, you know, something like that, you know, one night.
Bring it into the village.
Right.
And,
Well,
different.
what's one thing we could like say, okay, we really want to check that box off? We want to do it through Stevenson? Do we want to do it through the Music and Arts Council? Do we want to do it through some local businesses?
I think we need the buy-in from the businesses first. We can't say come on down until we've got a place for them to come on down to.
Well, what if, I think reaching out to the Arts and Music Council might be a good place to start, because they start with bands. We have a Stevenson connection now, but let's go to the Arts and Music Council and see what their appetite for it is.
I'd be willing to do that.
Right. Pam's going to find out who the driver is at the Arts and whatever council. And
yeah, I mean, I work with Jane Premack. I know she's involved with it. She's the president now of the Long Grove Historical Society, but she's also very active with the Music and Arts Council. So I'll talk to her and see what ideas she has. I know she was involved with bringing in some groups a few years ago to play in downtown Long Grove. I don't know, were you there when, I think it was in 2019 when Corky Siegel performed?
it was in my backyard, so I was there.
Yeah, she was involved with, scheduling some of those groups and they performed, and the money went, the money that was earned from the concert went to the Arts Council. So I'll talk to her about whether she has some ideas. I do like your idea about doing something at the tavern. I like that idea, Roger, because they could use, that would be a nice synergy. They could use that help.
Yeah, it just the whole thing would be how do we get more of a younger demographic in? So yeah. The Music and Arts Council, there has been a little bit of friction sometimes because the prior guy running it didn't want to have a whole lot of input or accountability. I don't know how to say that nicely. I mean, he had
very good music taste.
He had great music taste, but there's a little, like, the point here is to try and attract a younger demographic through possibly their parents or through them.
So do you think that isn't the right person to reach out to, Anne?
No, I don't. I just I think if this group is focused on, look, here's the end goal. There's lots of ways to do it. I think it would be courteous to start there for sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, if we get nowhere that way, maybe then reaching out to individual businesses is the way to go, and just saying, hey, this is a thought we had, and what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I really, I think that's a great idea. And I do like the idea of the tavern, even though it's a tavern. It's a place where young people could have Cokes and hamburgers and that kind of thing,
I have to say, Pam, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ann.
I was just going to tell a little story. Like when I early divorced, I remember going to the tavern. They'd have nights where they'd have musicians, and like my daughter and son would be doing Irish step dancing on the stage because like it was a free for all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I even like the idea of Irish step dancing there.
Well, there's lots of Irish dance schools always looking to perform. So
So let me try to tie this together. Vis-a-vis Stevenson, going back to that, I really think we should talk to them about social media and how they could help us with that. And then let's get their opinion in terms of what they'd like to see
Yeah, that's a good
downtown
idea.
for music. We're talking
Right.
about stuff a generation or me, 2 generations away from those kids. Let's see what's in their head, what they'd like, and let's try to tie that together and then coordinate that with the business owners. I think it's a great idea with the music.
Yeah. The one thing with Stevenson is we're probably not going to be able to restart that conversation till August.
And that's fine. That's fine. Maybe what we should do is try to, and we could do this at our next meeting, just determine what we want. And Mike, maybe we really need your help on social media, how they can help us, what their ideas are, so we can get going rather than starting a discussion. We're thinking about social media, maybe some bullet points when we talk to them that we have available. Just a thought.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I wanted to chime in on the music thing is it would be interesting. I don't know if Amy's on the phone, but it would be interesting to see if they track any kind of demographics. And I don't know how you would do that for what happened with Chocolate Fest this year, because they had a couple different bands that, again, we got to remember our goal here is to draw in a younger audience, right? So I wonder if the different bands, there wasn't the usual bands that are at the festivals. I wonder if they have any way of knowing, did it attract a bigger crowd? Did it attract, and bigger's probably not right because it was still, pandemic, but did they have any way to track the demographic of the crowd that came for the bands that were at Chocolate Fest this year versus prior years? Because I did notice they were different, right? So it would be interesting to see, or even talk to the people that booked the entertainment for Chocolate Fest and ask them, what was your thought process for booking these bands versus the ones you typically see there? And, instead of working in silos, let's work together, because they're probably trying to do some of the same things, right?
Maybe.
As far as identifying groups and bands and entertainment that might draw a different audience.
All right, well, we have more to do on this, and we'll follow up on the next meeting with this, but anybody else want to?
Yeah, and following up on what you said, Mike, I think that's a good idea. And like Strawberry Fest is this weekend, right?
Is it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so maybe contact, communicating with Amy about that and trying to see what the demographic is and the groups that they're having perform there. I'd be happy to talk to Amy about that.
Yeah, do. And, to the extent that any of us goes in and looks at Strawberry Fest, try and think about it in terms of who are these people? What, how old do they look or whatever?
Yeah, I know my daughter is planning on going Friday night. She's 30, and she's a little more up on some of the music that we would be talking about to attract that.
We're gonna put her in charge of bringing in the young crowd. So tell her she's got to come. She can come, but she has to bring 40 friends.
She has to bring 40 friends, right? Right.
Once again, this morning, I jumped right over the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting, second meeting in a row. So if we could please circle back, everybody's had minutes from the last 2 meetings. And does anybody have any additions, corrections, or modifications they'd like to propose? I didn't think so. They look good to me. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Denise. All right, moved and seconded. Anybody opposed? Hearing no opposition, they are approved officially. Thank you. So the next thing on the agenda is the How'd You Do It videos. And I've been working with Kevin, Rita's husband, and things have kind of, for whatever reason, drifted off. We've got the popcorn place person who's willing to do it. And we've got Kevin who's willing to do it. And we had Kevin sharing his schedule because he's the key to the whole thing. But then it kind of stalled, or didn't stall. It's just it hasn't happened yet, at least not to my knowledge. So
I'll follow up on that, Roger. I know that Eric was willing to do it, but I'll go down and talk to him and see what might work.
yeah, I mean, he had a range of dates, and it's really to his convenience. Kevin's very open about it, but it's one of those, let's just do it and have it done with.
Okay.
So on that one. The next item on the agenda is lists of brokers and or developers.
Yeah, I circulated something to, I think I copied you on it, Roger. I work with someone at the ELA library, and they, I used an online tool with them called Reference Solutions, and we got, we compiled a list from a database of real estate brokers and developers in Cook and Lake County. So, maybe I can work with you, Erwin. We could pare that list down. It's kind of a big list. And then, of course, we have to talk with the board about it. What would they want us to do in terms of circulating? I know we talked about the TIF information, but we haven't had the TIF brochure approved yet.
Do we have a final of that? Is that?
On the agenda, my notes are that we were waiting to make sure that the village planner was okay with it, basically, or the village manager, or the.
Oh, so we're waiting for the new village manager. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think we revised it a few meetings ago.
Okay.
And we're
Yeah,
just waiting for approval.
I am sorry. I've been so out of.
No, we were happy with it, and it's just.
Let me try to circle on this whole, Pam, great job on getting all those names together. Again, would this be something that we do on social media? Okay.
Starting point.
I like that idea, Erwin, of starting with social media rather than that HubSpot, or not HubSpot, but we talked about LinkedIn. Mike, I know you mentioned that, and having us having our media person with the village send something out, and then we could all forward it to our network. I like that way of starting.
That's one thing to do with LinkedIn. And again, LinkedIn is definitely social media, but it is for a business audience, right? What you want to do with if you've got a good targeted list of developers, you can, and I know Bill Jacobs said that we've got a media company now that's going to manage our social media presence, but I think that has to include LinkedIn for our purposes because it is to that business audience. So if we do have a Long Grove, Village of Long Grove, it's called a company page, or in this case, a village page on LinkedIn, you can then send invitations to the list of the developers, as long as they are on LinkedIn, which if they're good business people, they are, and say, hey, we'd like you to follow Long Grove. We've got some exciting things going on from a business development standpoint and a economic development standpoint, and potentially to develop real estate. you reach out to them through LinkedIn versus email. But then if you have that constant media presence, the trick with this is content that's updated and fresh and relevant. So you can reach out directly to lists of people through LinkedIn in a not non-solicitation type manner. So
Yeah,
it is very effective at getting the village's message out to a targeted audience.
I like that idea, Mike. I mean, we could kind of cross-reference this list that we're preparing, that Irma and I are working on, of real estate developers and brokers, and cross-reference it with folks on LinkedIn and whatever other people we have on our own networks. Because
Right. For sure.
I do have a number of developers and real estate people on my network with LinkedIn. So we could I like that idea because it's a little less formal in the sense of sending somebody an email.
Right.
But,
all right.
And
then you know how you get this started. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but you're exactly right. We reach out to our own connections in that field first, and then they may be connected to other people, right? So the way LinkedIn worked is that if you post something, and let's use Brian from CBRE for an example. We say, hey, would you mind following the Village of Long Grove? And then would you do us a favor and like or comment on all of the weekly posts that we make on LinkedIn about what's exciting in Long Grove? The minute he likes a post and more importantly comments on it, then people in his network start seeing it. So all the other CBRE brokers that he's involved with, it starts getting into a certain percentage of his network's feed. So that's how it socializes, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's a perfect way to handle this because, we can start that dialogue and without something as formal as some email, and
Exactly.
and we can get, our own connections involved with it too. I mean, we could send it out maybe more broadly to this list that we can have through LinkedIn, but then, maybe a special invitation to our own followers.
Right. I mean, you just ask them to connect, right? Just like you and I would say, hey, we're both on EDC. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Now we're connected. Now every time I post something that's original content, like we would be doing on Long Grove's page, or I like and comment on someone else's post, now there's a chance you might see that in your feed because I've made a comment. And so that's why it's so important that if we take the Bridge newsletter and parse it out over, once or twice a week, and then we all have to get on LinkedIn and say, hey, check out what's happening in Long Grove this week, right?
Right.
You can't just like it, you have to comment too. That gets it more visibility in your network's feed. So, and again, we can do a 10-minute, here's some LinkedIn best practices for this. There's all kinds of free tutorials on the web about how to effectively use LinkedIn, not only for building networks, but for, sales. And in this case, it's not necessarily selling, but it is awareness, right? So it's not hard at all. And it just takes consistency and everyone doing it every week to get the message out.
Yeah,
but it all starts with having a Long Grove LinkedIn page that we can post on, and then we can reference on our own personal LinkedIn pages. And so, when we brought this up the last time, I know Bill said that there's this media company managing the social media. I don't know who that is, but and I don't know if they would charge us extra to manage LinkedIn other than I'm assuming they're doing Facebook and maybe Twitter and Instagram. I don't know anything about it. I should probably educate myself on what we've hired them to do. But,
they're doing Facebook and that next door neighbor thing.
Yeah, and
next door. Yeah,
I think
okay.
it's like $500 a month for each social media platform. think that's right.
Okay. And if they don't want to add LinkedIn, we can manage it on our own without a media company. I mean, it's not complicated. But if
Yeah,
it's worth the extra $500 a month, we can do it. I just don't want to go rogue and do it without the board. They may say, hey, no, we hired this company for a reason. We'll leave it up to them.
There's
So,
two. So I think it's 500 for them to manage both of those platforms. I think the
Okay.
thing is making sure the board is on board, because there's a couple of folks on the board who are not on social media whatsoever. And so there's an education there, if you will. The whole idea was to try and have a single company so the messaging is very consistent. But I agree with you, Mike. This is a different audience, and it should be tailored to that audience. And it's not like the whole thing would be just if the EDC helps manage, if you will, curating existing content to get out there every week, it's not very onerous.
Well, that and let me go back. I agree 100% that we need one company managing everything, so we don't have one message on LinkedIn that contradicts a message on Facebook, because then we look stupid. So, and I hate that, right? I hate inconsistent messaging. It makes my head explode. But I'm off on a tangent. I agree it should be managed by one company, but I think it's important to add LinkedIn to that mix because it's a different audience, because it helps us from an economic development standpoint, and we can use it for a different purpose.
Assuming the board says, okay, give it a try, how much would it be for this group to create a Long Grove LinkedIn page and then run it for a couple of months so that we can say to the board, look, here's what happened?
Well, again, you want to work in coordination with that company because you want consistency of message, right? So I would say let's present this to the board and say, how much extra would it cost? And let's present our case to say, here's why we need to add LinkedIn to this mix. Because economic, Facebook and Nextdoor aren't going to help us from an economic development standpoint. LinkedIn will. And so,
Mike,
right.
Mike, how do you feel about framing this in writing so that we've got a memo to the board kind of a thing? Rather than,
I'm happy to do that.
I'm
happy to do that. I'll put it all together.
Let's put that on the agenda for next time to look at the. Yeah, I'm sorry, Pam. Go ahead.
If you can put something. I am not a social. I'm one of the trustees that does not have social media, but I'm open to it. So any background info that I can bring to the board would be helpful, because my terminology is probably very not great. So, and even maybe if you would, the night we presented, if you want to come to that board meeting, it would be good to have a marketing person to kind of sell it.
Yeah, and I think, as you're saying, Mike, I think LinkedIn adds another dimension, because you're dealing with business people, and we could gear it towards these brokers and developers. We can, the ones that we have on our own network, or this other list that we could create. And, even if we have somebody who is directing the content, which makes sense, but, we can emphasize the, the particular items that relate to the economic development area. Like, for example, the TIF, when we get the TIF brochure approved, well, that's something maybe that we can have summarized, and this media company can help us put it in into that context, and for delivery through LinkedIn.
That's right. And here's the beauty of it. It's all additive, right? And it's not instead of. So we're going to do a TIF brochure. All you do is you post that on Long Grove's LinkedIn page and say, hey, check it out. Long Grove's got a new TIF. If you're interested, click here, right? And then people like that and comment on it. We all do that. We get Brian and his colleagues to do it. It circulates very quickly. And that drives traffic back to the EDC microsite, because people see it on LinkedIn, they click, you get that click through, goes right back to ED microsite. You see your traffic go up, right? So you start getting your views going up. Then as you continue to update both the microsite and LinkedIn with value-driven content, that helps your SEO results, because Google's algorithm looks at how frequently are you posting new content? How relevant is it? Is it video or text, right? How many keywords are there for certain searches? So if if a developer goes, hey, are there any active TIFs in Northern Illinois? Long Groves might pop up higher on that list of search results because we're actively posting content. So we're already developing a brochure, is my point. It's no extra effort, or next to zero extra effort, to then post that on LinkedIn and get it circulated, versus just dropping it on a microsite that no one comes to, or just emailing it out and you're not even sure if it gets through to people's inboxes or it goes in their spam filter, right? It's just one more way, and probably the most effective way out of those three I just mentioned, to get it in front of eyeballs.
Let me add my 2 cents on that. And I'm not a social media person, but I just went on LinkedIn and I did a search for Chicago real estate developers. There must be hundreds of members on that. So that's a subset. We go on that, Pam, we don't even have to worry about the list, and we get people to connect. I mean, I just went, here's someone who is involved in music and real estate. Here's someone who's in development of shopping centers, banks in real estate companies, attorneys. I mean, that's what they're going to look at. That's our marketing. That's our marketing versus sending out letters. We can have the TIF on there. We can have all kinds of things, and Mike knows more about it.
Absolutely.
So actually, you
put the how they do it videos on our LinkedIn? I'm sorry, you put the how they do it videos not only on our EDC micro website, but let's say we have a library of 10 built up over time, right? So you say, okay, in the fourth quarter, or maybe in the first quarter of 2022, once a week, we're going to post, or maybe once every other week, in addition to all the other content, we're going to say, hey, here's this week's edition of How'd They Do It. It's a short story about why someone chose Long Grove. And you put that out there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just another way to circulate that. And then it draws people back to the EDC website automatically.
So did Denise share the website statistics with the EDC, or was that with just the board?
I think she did share those with us at some point.
Okay, so that's on the agenda tonight to kind of discuss how once we added Facebook and Nextdoor, the usage on the website just went up like 700%.
Sure.
So
that's
we're
no
obviously seeing really great response to that addition. So this will come up tonight, I'm guessing. So I will put, and I know that Bill has brought up LinkedIn, and I think that it was part of the discussion to add, and I think it just got left off the final voting, but I think there is an appetite for it. So I will bring it up tonight at tonight's discussion. Because I think we proved that by using social media, we're getting response. And why would that not impact the EDC? It's definitely a different market, but let's capitalize on the success of the other social medias.
Would it be more beneficial to bring it up tonight and just say the EDC would like to make a presentation at the next meeting or 2 meetings on this? And Mike could do that. But this way we have, you don't have objections to it. Let them first hear it.
Okay.
Exactly what we're doing. Does that make some sense?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Next time, I think that probably exhausts or whatever. At least for now, we've got good plans going forward. Next item is the drone video editing, and I think that's another one of these where, with the interim between the new manager and the old manager, we've just kind of put that on hold. Is there anything we need to follow through on that with?
No, I just spent more time looking at some of the videos that I did with the last guy of the TIF districts.
Mhm.
and the downtown. There's some great shots in there. So I think some of those should, if we can, I've reached out to Denise about getting together with her to even put some of those images on our website now, because some of them are fabulous. So I
Oh,
think,
that would be great.
yeah, there's some great video. Oh my gosh, that's going nuts. I'm sorry. So yeah, there's some great footage. So let's,
So we won't lose track of it, but we got nothing immediate, right?
no, it's Denise and I need to get together and try to incorporate what we have onto the website.
I think the next agenda item is kind of the same, the customer relations management software. You know, the new village manager is just barely in place.
Not yet. July
Yeah.
4th, I think, or 5th.
6th,
6th.
Coming
July
soon.
6th. And there may be, I don't know if a full-on CRM is going to be needed. I have not been part of the conversations this group has had, but I know they are having discussions about shifting to more professional email, and there may be additional capabilities there that could be, tried out as well.
Okay. So we'll keep our foot in the pond here, but for now, we've done what we can do. That's kind of the same with respect to the TIF information brochure as well, I think.
Mhm.
And it's pretty much the same with respect to the development inquiry script. I think there's a good one sitting there, but now the village is hiring a new, what's the title proper? A new developer, or at least, you know, the new professional
Planner, is it the planner?
planner. Yeah.
Yep. We're losing
So-
Jim.
So it's still, you know, we know who that is. In the meantime, I don't know. Should we push to have Jim agree that this is appropriate to use and try to use it, or?
I don't think it would hurt to have him, because he has such a vast knowledge. I don't think it hurts to have it run by him just to get his 2 cents on it. I thought we've already done that though, haven't we? Hasn't he looked at it?
I don't remember that happening.
Okay. So we're talking about the bridge to business. Is this what we're talking about?
We developed Mike developed a script, basically a
Right.
set of questions to ask when somebody calls the village to inquire. And maybe Mike, you could direct an email to him saying, do you use something like this now, or would this be appropriate to put in the village's policy manuals or someplace as a guide? Or
And that would be the new village manager, is that right? I'm sorry.
well,
Oh,
for now,
Jim.
No.
Could
Oh,
Jim, the
Jim.
village planner, just to get his
Oh.
input before he leaves.
yeah.
I think it's Buffalo Grove's website. It's Buffalo Grove or Arlington Heights has a kind of the same charting, like
Mhm.
the decision tree. If that, I thought they did it
But
really.
this isn't the bridge to business. We're talking about two
Oh.
separate things. This is something actually, Erwin put it together and I just put some input, so I have to give credit to him on this one, but it's just a list of questions that we could ask to, if we run into someone who's talking about maybe locating a business here, it's just, I don't know, 6 or 7 questions that we can ask. And the idea there was, if we were going to start using a CRM tool like HubSpot, these are the basic bits of information we want to gather from the person. So when we set up their record in the CRM tool, we've got consistent information about every business that we're entering in there. That's all the purpose of that.
Okay.
So it's really
But,
nothing
backing up, Mike, to the bridge to business. Did
Yep.
we send that to Jim Hogue?
Yes. In fact,
Okay.
that went to him early on, back even when I started with the conversation with Dave. And then Jim actually edited the document with a lot of input. So he's already had his eyes on that and gave us a lot of valuable input early on in that.
Yeah, okay,
So
I was confused.
So we should be pretty much ready to go with that. Maybe we just pass that by the village, the new village manager.
Yeah, I would say yes, get his buy-in on it. And then, yeah, the other thing is just a list of questions. If we decide we're going to start using CRM, here's the information you want to gather from people so that, you know, we're not going back, hey, by the way, what's your phone number? Hey, by the way, what's a good email address for you, right? Who are you targeting for your, it's just simple, basic questions. I mean, I'm happy to share it with Jim and whoever, but, you know, they're just questions that we're going to ask to get information into CRM.
Really, this is key to using the CRM. So until we get the CRM, this is
Right.
nice, but not critical. That's fair.
Really? Wouldn't we want to, I mean, if you have a standard set of questions, even if you write it on paper, wouldn't it still be good to collect?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's good to run those by Jim.
Can't hurt.
Did someone say he's leaving?
Yeah, he's retiring July 13th.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna have Mundaline do our planning until we can get somebody in place to replace him, yeah.
Gotcha.
Can you please remind me what CRM stands for?
It's customer relationship management.
Okay,
And it's a tool that businesses use to keep track of their customers and prospects. Typically used by sales forces, but can also be used by customer service teams. It's basically a way to keep track of the activity that you've got going with
right.
customers and prospects. So our
I
purpose
just couldn't
would be,
remember what the acronym was.
Yeah. Customer relationship management.
Thank
So
you.
real common big names are Salesforce is probably the biggest one. Oracle and SAP all have their versions of CRM software. HubSpot is one that is free for a basic, basic CRM tool, and it would more than suit our purposes for keeping track.
It's a system, so there's a central place so everybody has access. So if Jenny collects data, Erwin and Mike have access to it, and that the next time conversation doesn't make us look stupid, it makes us look smarter.
Correct. Exactly right. And so you keep one central repository of all the conversations you had, all the proposals you've generated, all the letters you've sent. It's just a way to keep track of the activity that you've got with everyone you're interacting with.
I've got some notes. I've got a bunch of notes in a notebook, literally, where I've tried since, the first time I had a developer call me, because somehow he got my number, and I got so excited about talking about development possibilities, I forgot to get the guy's name or phone number, which is just, and I had to backtrack from the number on my cell phone and figure out who it was I talked to. But, having that kind of discipline in the sense of here's the procedure and here's what it looks like, I think is helpful for everybody, including the members of this group.
Okay.
Somebody talks to you, write it down someplace and then save it for us. So that's the idea, and we're working on it, and hopefully we'll get better at it soon. The last item on the agenda is about distribution of information to new businesses or new residents. And I think that, what's anybody hear about what's going on with that?
I think there's an interest, but I think it's one of those things that has just fallen off the back of the plate, and it's, I think we're all kind of in a stasis until the new village manager comes on board. And I think there's interest all around, but part of it also was, this was potentially a project to collaborate with Stevenson on. So that was holding off until the fall.
So to me, this really points us to another topic that we should discuss, which is the new village manager and how to establish a good working relationship with this man. Ideas, anybody?
I know that he's interested in his first 6 months is getting to know all of the different players in the game. So I'm sure he will make he will come to the meetings and introduce himself and get to know us. I think that, is this the time to discuss that Denise is no longer going to be joining us at the meetings?
Yeah, yes.
So she is now a full-time employee with the village. And with that becomes a whole different set of responsibilities, and to expect her to come at 6, be here at
6:30
in the morning and then have to do a board meeting the same day until late at night. It's just a lot to ask of anybody. And so I think for me, there's an interest in the new village planner potentially becoming I'm hoping that the person that is hired to replace Jim has an EDC bend, and they might be our visiting staff member to come and attend the meetings periodically. I think it's not reasonable to expect participation at every meeting. Yes, I think that Mr. Jackson should be invited to come to a meeting or encouraged to come to a meeting and open up that relationship as soon as we can, just to make ourselves available to him. And
but unless he says, I want to come next week to us, is there any point in trying to set something up formally until at least the end of summer, that kind of thing? I'm thinking, let's see what develops and keep this on our agenda for maybe late August, more likely early September, to formally say, please, let's devote a meeting to getting to know you and what you feel about development.
Definitely. He's going to have a lot thrown at him immediately, and I don't think we're top priority. So, but yeah, I think reasonable, maybe a meeting in August at the earliest.
Yeah, I think August would be good. Because, even though there's a lot thrown at you, Roger, when you start, in a way, it's a good time period to be, to introduce yet something else that he can be, putting in the forefront of his agenda going forward. I think August is a good idea.
Okay, I don't know if anybody else noticed his bio, but I was interested to see that one of the things he had been involved with had been the harbor in Winthrop Harbor, which is a big recreational whatever. And that, if he was involved in that and getting more business driven there, that seems like a good fit to trying to drive business to a recreation place like Long Grove as well. So that could be. Right.
He seems like he has a perfect background for that.
And he's spent a lot of time in Long Grove. He has a long history. He knows the history of Long Grove. He's been coming here for years and years and years. So I think that's good.
Absolute. So the other piece of this is the discussion. It sounds like more people have had the discussion than I had with Jennifer about, do we really want to meet twice a month first? And do we really want to get up at 6:45 in the morning to come to in-person meetings? Because there's nothing that says we have to meet twice a month. And even more, there's nothing that says we have to meet at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was scratching my head trying to remember why we started with that. And the best I could come up with was that Mike Sarletto thought there was some energy in having the meeting and being there immediately before the village meeting, so everything was fresh in the mind of the people who participated about what was going on.
I think, Roger, it was originally to make sure it could attract enough business people outside of their business day. So that was the time, the 7 a.m. time.
Right.
I think the same day as the village board was just a matter of convenience. There's nothing magic about it. It was just easy to remember.
Well,
Nothing
yeah,
magic
all
though.
the people,
Right. I do think the 7 o'clock time was to accommodate, you know, to work around people's work day. You know, and you're right. I think that's true, Anne. You know, that was what Mike's thought was.
my experience has been that when I've talked to people about coming, and I say 7 in the morning, I always get kind of a gasp or a silence. It's just, when? You know, that kind of thing. And, you know, to the extent that they're giving up their morning or they're giving up a piece of their evening, when we're talking about bringing people in from the outside, we've always been, and I think it's been successful, very flexible in terms of saying, we've got this window. You tell us when within that window, and we'll work around your time. And they've shown up even at 7 in the morning or whatever. And I remember winter mornings trying to get over to the village hall at 7 in the morning. And those aren't fond memories I have.
And you live close.
I live very close, yeah.
Well, and with the, you know, everybody's gotten more flexible with Zoom about coming and going. 7 is not going to, we don't need to accommodate a ton of people catching the train any longer or commuting to their place of business the same way.
Right. So what do people think would be a good time and day?
Well, looking at the schedule of meetings already, it looked like Wednesday evenings were open in terms of nobody having that place as their standard meeting time. And so Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock would, you know, whatever you do is going to intrude on people's lifetimes, but.
Let me throw this out. If we do a Wednesday evening, I'd recommend we go for 2 hours once a month. Because it seems like we regurgitate certain information and maybe we could, at the end of, maybe carve out 15 minutes at the end and develop a to-do list that we all agree on. So we have the agenda for the following month. We know exactly what we have to do.
Yeah, I 100% concur that I think one meeting a month should be sufficient. The one thing that we could potentially do, and what the Plan Commission and the Architectural Commission do, is they have one meeting a month. They have a second one planned on the agenda that is only as needed. So if we have something that's
We'll just
urgent,
cancel.
we don't want to wait a month. We have the potential to do a second meeting, but I think meeting too often can sometimes be a hindrance to productivity.
All right. I mean, I second your thought, and I think that's a great idea. Anybody else? Any other?
So is this something we'll implement at some point? Like pick a date or?
Well, I think that the thing to do is to actually have a motion and then take a vote. And then we'll simply present to the village manager or to Denise, we need to change the publication of our official meeting times from what's published now to something that says Wednesdays at 7.
So Roger, I'll move then to change our meeting dates to Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. once a month for 2 hours. And we will also schedule alternative meetings. Ann, is it, or not Ann, was that right? What was the terminology someone used?
Like a backup or contingency.
Yeah, and we'll have a backup if we need it. whatever the wording is on that. That would be,
Is-
yeah.
So which Monday? First, second, third, fourth?
Well, yeah, I think it should be a Wednesday before the board meeting, so not right after the board.
Right,
We're not
right.
meeting. So it
I
either
agree.
first or third Monday of the month. So probably the first.
Probably the first, yeah.
yeah.
I think I have a conflict on the third with another organization, so.
Okay.
All right, so
Do we
if we
need
say
to
the
run
first,
this by Mina and Jay?
Yeah, I'm thinking we should do this next time because we could get the buy-in of, they can look at their schedules.
Right. Okay, so let's put this on the agenda for next meeting. Is that
better
it?
still, can I have a motion to table the motion? We're going all parliamentary this morning.
I'll make the motion to table.
And the second motion to table?
I'll second.
All right. Any opposition to tabling the motion until the next meeting?
For clarification, Roger, I know we're on Zoom. Would it be, would we meet at Village Hall?
Well, that's a
Just
whole
what-
other discussion. The board, I understand, is going back to some degree, in-person meetings sometime next month.
July 13th will be our first hybrid meeting.
Meaning you're going to run it both ways and people can Zoom in if they want.
Mhm.
So what it really boils down to is that you have to have at least one person from the village board sitting in the village hall.
So
And you have to, the door is open for the public.
yeah, so our next meeting will be hybrid. So one of us, and as I said before the meeting started, I'm going to be on vacation that first week. So I'm hoping, Roger, you might be the one that can sit in the village and open it up to, and anybody that would like to come can come in person. Otherwise, you can call or Zoom in.
And Jenny, I'm around on the 13th if you want help too.
Okay, great. Because somebody will need to
I mean,
open the village hall and start the Zoom. So
Yeah,
I can
not to step
call
on
it.
toes, Roger. I'm just raising my hand if you want.
Yeah.
I'll let Roger lead. I'll let Roger lead.
No, I'll take the help gladly.
So our next
Okay.
meeting will still be on Tuesday then, and we'll,
yeah, maybe we should send an email out to Jay and Mina and just kind of say, hey, this is up for discussion. Throw out, are you okay with this? If not, throw out some ideas.
I'll try and actually follow up old school on the telephone and get a confirmation that they understand what's going on. And
Okay.
but we'll do the email too. But yeah, that's a really good point. Let them because it impacts everybody's lives. Yeah, all right, so that's, and then our next meeting
13th, right?
would be the 13th.
Right.
And as it sits right now, we'll plan on having a hybrid meeting, some in the village hall, some out here. And that'll be interesting.
okay, that'd be nice to see everybody.
That'd be great. Hey, Ryder, somewhere, I don't know if it was in the minutes. Was Mina going to follow up with Brian, the real estate, I forgot his last name, the real estate developer, the agent for I forgot which land it was, maybe the South.
Well,
Brian Buckingham on
Yeah.
Brian
Brian
Buckingham, I think.
Yeah. There was supposed to be some follow-up as to what the status was of the group that wanted to develop something in the land. I think it was the South.
Yeah,
that was
Yeah,
Mina
that
and
that urban group.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was Mina was going to follow up. Speaking of actually that discussion, I did bring up at the last board meeting, talking about like high density housing potential on some of these properties, which we discussed in our meeting. And there was a suggestion that we do like a workshop where the EDC and the Plan Commission meet and have this discussion, which would also be a really great opportunity for Greg Jackson to get involved in that conversation. So we should kind of grasp onto this momentum and this discussion and maybe try to get that on the books soon. So it's just,
I think it's really important that Mina and Jay are there.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So I don't know if that will be before a board meeting, probably will be the best option, like an hour before a board meeting, like we did last time.
Mm-hmm.
If we'll have to find a separate time, but I will continue to keep that in everybody's ear at the board meeting tonight and try to get a time, you know, at least a couple suggestions of when it might work for the board.
Mm-hmm. That would be great.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna follow through. Did anybody notice the latest CBRE deal that's going on? It was in the news recently. They're involved with the sale of a piece of parcel of land along the railroad tracks in Arlington Heights.
Oh, that small piece of land there?
That small piece of land there, exactly. So, and if Brian was, he said he was involved with or in charge of all the Northwest development. That means that he's up to his ears in the Bears and whoever else buying the Arlington Park tracks. So, which said to me, yeah, that was really nice that the guy took the time out to give us a half hour in the morning.
Yes, it was.
All right. New business. Old business we forgot about.
You know, one thing we might want to ask Jim Hogue about before he retires, you know, so there's some transition. You know, I did bring up the fact that Lake County Partners had secured a grant to develop a comprehensive economic development strategy for what infrastructure was needed in Lake County to progress its economy. And, you know, I'm wondering if Jim could help with that. I know we talked about things like bringing in a public water supply to the downtown and South 15. And he's already got a lot of that work, you know, he's got all of that worked out in writing. I'm just wondering if we should make sure to ask him what projects he would give priority to and what we should, you know, maybe bring out to Lake County Partners so they get it on their seeds list. Because, you know, it could come up rather quickly, you know, both from the standpoint of state and federal opportunities, and we don't want to miss being on that list.
I suspect that he won't be willing to do anything unless somebody from the board tells him it's okay that he does that. But I think it's a great idea.
He's, I know that Bill Bowling has talked with him about could we do some arrangement after he retires. There are certain regulations with the Illinois, whatever, the municipal employees retirement system. He's kind of fixed on that date, but Jenny, I don't know if you've had chats with him, but it certainly would be cool if we could at least download some of his knowledge between now and July 15th.
Yeah, absolutely. I can reach out to him and try to set up a meeting and just say, hey, what questions should we be asking you before you leave, and any words of wisdom you want to leave behind.
Yeah, that would be great, Jenny, if you could ask him, because I think, you know, we did ask before what he would prioritize, you know, for this list that Lake County Partners is putting together. And, you know, they're focused on, you know, bringing businesses into Lake County. You know, that's their whole focus. And, you know, from Long Grove's perspective, what does he think we should suggest to them that we need, you know, in terms of infrastructure to bring in business here? because we want to be on that list. You know, that list could turn in, it's a state of Illinois list now, but, you know, infrastructure is coming at all levels. So we should make sure to, you know, be part of that.
Yeah, and the infrastructure is part of the Rebuild America grant program. That's why they're taking that bent, because infrastructure qualifies for that, some of that relief money that Congress voted.
Right, right. And we don't want to miss any opportunities like that. I know we did apply for a grant. Jim worked on that with Dave, and Mina and I helped them, you know, to bring water into the downtown. So all that's written up already, all that's prepared. And there are a few other projects that I know had priority. So maybe he needs to help us, you know, develop that list so we can get it to Lake County Partners when we need to.
Sounds good.
We did submit a grant. And did we ever hear back on that? I don't think we heard yes.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I just, and not to be nitpicky, but we do have public water in those areas. We just don't have Lake Michigan, higher quality, higher volume water.
Yeah, right. We were going to connect it to Buffalo Grove for Lake Michigan water, and they had approved it. I mean, Buffalo Grove was willing to do it. And, you know, that was part of what you needed to prove for the grant. You needed to prove that you know, that your partner municipality would have would present an agreement, and we had that. So I don't know. I mean, that's another thing to follow up with Jim, to see where that stands and to see whether there's another opportunity for that, or should we put it on this list?
I think it's on his list. I think it's on, I mean, we've talked about it repeatedly on the board. I think it's pretty top of discussions. So that one I'm not worried about, but I just don't know if there's other things that, you know, for me, I think of pathways is a big thing, trying to connect our communities. And but I mean, I personally feel like we do have a list with the village, and we have discussed it, but I do think having a discussion with Jim and just making sure that there's nothing that, you know, we're going to lose. I know we're going to lose a lot when he leaves, because he just has so much knowledge, but hopefully he'll take a phone call too as he moves on to retirement.
Well, Jenny, that's perfect. If we can get his list, because you're right, there are already 3 or 4 things that were on the priority list, and maybe get his opinion about what, you know, what we should perhaps be discussing with Lake County Partners, or getting on their list.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. One last call. Anything else? Anybody?
Hey, I have one thing, and I apologize. I think I left 2 weeks ago meeting early for a different meeting, but Roger, I'd send you a note. I got an interesting email that there's a big group from the state of Illinois, and it may have already happened, but they were going to some international business development event to try and attract businesses to come to Illinois. And all the big players were a part of that group, including Lake County Partners. And so I don't know who's got the best relationship with Lake County Partners. It might be worth a call to say, hey, what came out of this meeting? And obviously, you know, I shouldn't say obviously, I'm assuming they were going after, you know, bigger international companies to locate in Illinois, and obviously Lake County to locate here. But I wonder if there were any smaller organizations that were part of that meeting that may not have caught the attention of, you know, some of the bigger municipalities or county organizations that might be a good fit for Long Grove, that might be a source for any leads. So I apologize, I didn't bring it up last meeting. I don't know if you saw the email I sent Roger. I didn't send it to the whole group, I guess, but it sounded like it was going to be an interesting meeting, and I'd love to hear from Lake County Partners if anything of substance came out of that, and if there were any businesses they're looking to relocate here that might be a good fit for Long Grove.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Mike. I mean, I could set something up for us to talk with our contact. Would you be be available to do that? I mean, I can.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
All right, that sounds like a good idea. Okay. Anybody else? Anything else? All right. Jenny, I think this means in a second. Any second to the motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion to adjourn is passed and we are adjourned. We can turn off the recorder. We don't have to necessarily say goodbye, but